Good evening, friends. Behind the tall hedges of Montecito lies silence, the scent of eucalyptus, and a set of rules valued more than titles: simplicity, involvement in the community, and an absence of pretense. That's why any whisper from beyond those gates echoes louder than tabloid headlines. Tonight is one of those cases. The neighborhood view of the Sussex home explains more than gossip ever could, not only about their daily life, but also why every attempt to return to family in London, to public respect, to trust, keeps running into the same barrier. Stay with us until the end, because we'll explore what exactly would have to change if they truly want not another storyline about themselves, but a normal life for their children. Let's start with a local truth. In Montecito, ordinary celebrity is not an oxymoron but a way of life. You might see Oprah at a charity evening without lights or red carpets. She shows up because that's the culture here. You appear not on a billboard, but alongside people. Against this backdrop, the account of a local reporter who lives near Harry and Meghan sounds discordant. He often sees Harry, usually alone, walking along the ocean, cycling, having the occasional quiet dinner at small restaurants. Always with security, but without spectacle. He sees Meghan too, not chaotic, but different, a managed image, every appearance carefully curated, every word and gesture calculated. It's silence, yes, but staged silence, not organic. And the details stick. We have many who are very wealthy and very famous, one neighbor admits. But nobody else has a security convoy like that. In a town where blending in is practically a code of honor, a visible perimeter screams the opposite. It's not about safety, everyone here has enough of that. It's about the signal: do not approach. Add to that a small but telling story: an elderly neighbor with a documentary about local history was never let past the gate. Polite on the surface, but symbolic underneath. And suddenly it's clear why locals may smile politely, but wait for their own, not neighbors who live only through the press. This is the fine line. It's not about flinging your doors wide open. It's about this: if you choose to live in a place where public figures dissolve into the community rather than float above it, every gesture of distance sounds louder. She cultivates a very controlled image. That phrase, overheard on a California sidewalk, is not about vanity. It's about trust. And older audiences, who have lived through public jobs and private battles alike, can spot the difference between life and its directed version. With Harry, the picture looks softer. Locals describe him as lower key: the ocean, a bike ride, a plate of pasta on a terrace somewhere. But even this low key carries background noise: the bodyguards always nearby, the constant glances over his shoulder. In contrast, the habits of Montecito: fewer entourages, more participation. In this town, people value those who don't hand out an instruction manual for how to approach them. That's why even polite distance begins to feel excessive. Someone might object: so what? They have the right to their home, their rules. Absolutely. But let's be honest, if your larger goal is to rebuild burned bridges, to earn back respect, to create peace for your family, then your daily style either helps or hurts. And here, control as a main strategy starts to backfire. It drains away the natural connections on which all reconciliation depends: ties with neighbors, with the local community, with charities that don't make headlines but build reputations. Why does this matter now? Because across the Atlantic, a new act may be beginning, a fragile thaw between Harry and his father. Those 55 minutes of tea at Clarence House woke something deep in the king: the desire to see his grandchildren. And here Montecito's math suddenly becomes Britain's: if you want children to hug their grandfather without cameras, you must first learn to live without cameras at home. Not just in London. In California too. Let's return to that scene at the gates. An old man with a film about local history. He wasn't a fan, but a symbol. He offered the Sussexes the key to belonging: here's our story, be part of it. The key was refused. Maybe for order, maybe for security, maybe just bad timing. But the symbol remained. After that, the town still smiled, but stopped inviting. Because appearing is not the same as joining. There's another layer that older audiences feel immediately. Extra heavy security in a peaceful setting is not only about risk, it's a language. It says: do not approach. We are different. And that language translates directly into other settings: charity galas, school fairs, local projects. Where people would admire you for being present, they grow tired of you behind glass. This isn't morality or envy. It's community psychology. Now look at it through London's lens. The royal family are masters of quiet. Never complain, never explain is not a motto, but muscle memory. They value controlled emotions more than controlled images. They achieve the most not through announcements, but through silence. And if Harry truly wants to take his children to their grandfather, he needs not just a new structure of security, but a new discipline of silence. The easiest place to start is not in Windsor, but in California. Not by closing gates against a neighbor's film, but by opening the door for an hour: no cameras, no press, no sources close to the family. Another objection arises: but the press won't stop. True. They won't. And that is precisely why the only winning move is to stop feeding them what they crave: managed aloofness. Let them collide with emptiness. Paradoxically, the emptiness of headlines creates fullness of life. When there is nothing to quote, you can finally live. Harry's daily picture, as a neighbor describes it: shorts, sneakers, headphones, salty wind, steady pace along the beach road. That scene rings true, solid, and adult. But always beside him walks a shadow, the couple's collective image. If Meghan's image still looks more like a press release than a neighbor's smile, then even Harry's honesty on the boardwalk will dissolve into the larger picture. Every family has a right to boundaries. But every reputation carries an obligation to match the culture of the place where you live. So what is to be done? The answer is simpler than it sounds, but harder than it feels. Stop trying to prove that you're not what they say. Become what people here are ready to accept. Not tomorrow. Today. One evening, not in a closed circle, but in a local hall raising funds for a playground. Not a photo moment, but a couple of hours shoulder to shoulder, no stage, no toast. Not our circle, but the neighbor to your left and your right. Such gestures never make reports. But they make memories. And memories build trust. Now to the heart of it, the children. Here lies the moral center. Children are not entry passes into palaces, not bargaining chips in arguments with the public. They are the reason to finally do things not for the picture, but for the people who matter most. If a grandfather asks to see them, that request should outweigh hesitation. But for it to happen without complications, adults must relearn something simple: show up where there are no applause, only handshakes. And the place to start is at their own front gate. Neighbors are not enemies. They are mirrors. Today that mirror reflects this. In a beautiful house, among rose-colored sunsets and immaculate hedges, there is too much that goes on air, and too little that stays between us. Switching those around is the only strategy that truly works with older generations, who have seen fame, decline, and reconciliation. First between us. Then let the media catch up. What do you think, friends? Should Harry and Meghan bring more ordinary life into their California days, not for neighbors' sake, but to make London believe them when they say, "We came without cameras"? Should Meghan sacrifice control for the kind of trust you cannot buy or script? Do neighbors have the right to expect not titles, but participation? Share your thoughts. Your experience is especially valuable. You know better than most how fragile trust is, and how easily it can be lost. And if you value our calm, grown-up analysis, please support this channel with a like and a subscription. Ahead lies what truly matters, not news about the Sussexes, but the answer to whether they can finally live where they are already being waited for.